You've heard the stories, right? Ships and planes just vanishing, compasses spinning like crazy, this mysterious patch of ocean that seems to just swallow people whole. For decades, the legend of the Bermuda Triangle has totally captured our imaginations. So is it some kind of paranormal vortex, or is it just a really, really good story? All right, let's get into it. Here is how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to figure out what and where this so-called triangle even is. Then, we'll track down exactly how the legend got started. After that, we'll tear apart the most famous cases, look at the science, run the numbers, and finally, try to understand why this myth just refuses to go away. Okay, so first things first, what exactly is the Bermuda Triangle? Now, here's what's so wild. The most famous, mysterious place in the entire ocean? Well, it doesn't officially exist. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names, they don't recognize it. You will not find it on any official map on the planet. It's a totally made-up spot, which, is probably our first big clue. So that brings us to the next big question. Where did this whole story come from? You might think it's some ancient mariner's tale passed down for centuries, but nope, it's actually a very modern invention. The actual phrase Bermuda Triangle didn't even show up until 1964 in a pulp fiction magazine. But the legend really truly exploded 10 years later, in 1974. That's when a guy named Charles Berlitz published his book. It sold 20 million copies and basically turned a piece of magazine fiction into a global obsession. And this is where it gets really clear what's going on. See, Berlitz wasn't just reporting simple facts. Oh no, he connected the triangle to all sorts of wild stuff, like the lost city of Atlantis and even the famous ghost ship the Mary Celeste, which, by the way, was found on the complete other side of the Atlantic. It was never even close to the triangle. So, we know the whole legend was built on sensationalism, but what about the specific cases? The ones that are supposed to be the proof? All right, let's dig in and see how they actually hold up. The biggest one is the USS Cyclops. This was a massive Navy ship that disappeared back in 1918 with over 300 people on board. The story goes that it sent one last eerie message, weather good, all well, and then just poof, gone. But the truth, it's way more tragic and a whole lot less mysterious. Historical records show the ship was known to have a really serious structural flaw. In fact, its captain had literally begged for a replacement because it was in such bad shape, but his request was ignored. And here's the kicker. Its sister ships, built with the same exact flaw, were also lost at sea. This wasn't a paranormal event. It was a catastrophic engineering failure. And then you've got the most famous aviation case, Flight 19. 5 Navy bombers on a training mission in 1945. The legend kicks off with this totally chilling radio call from the flight leader. But when you listen to the radio transcripts from that day, you get a crystal clear picture. It's not a mystery. It's just a cascade of human error. The leader's compasses failed, he got confused and started flying them further out into the Atlantic, not back to Florida. Other pilots knew he was wrong. They even suggested turning west, but he overruled them. In the end, they all just ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. It's heartbreaking. But here's where the story gets even better. The mythmakers always say a hop, but the rescue planes sent to find them also vanished. Except it didn't. The crew of a nearby tanker actually saw it happen. They witnessed the plane explode in a giant fireball. Turns out this particular model was notorious for fuel vapor explosions. They literally called it the flying gas tank. Okay, so the most famous cases completely fall apart once you look at the facts. But that hasn't stopped people from trying to find some kind of weird scientific reason for the mystery. One of the most popular theories you'll hear about is methane hydrates. The idea is that a huge bubble of gas could erupt from the ocean floor, and it would suddenly make the water less dense, causing a ship to lose all its buoyancy and sink in seconds. I mean, it sounds kind of plausible, right? Well, here's the reality check. While that might work in a science lab, there is zero geological evidence that this has ever happened in the Bermuda Triangle in all of recorded history. The last time a big methane event happened there was about 20,000 years ago. So yeah, it can't really explain a ship sinking in the 20th century. So what can explain things going wrong in that area? Perfectly natural, though definitely dangerous, stuff. You've got the Gulf Stream, which is a super powerful current that can whisk wreckage away from a crash site in no time. The area is known for monster rogue waves, sometimes 100 feet high. And that whole compass spinning thing? That's just the agonic line. It's a normal navigational feature that sailors have known about and adjusted for centuries. But honestly, the single most powerful piece of evidence that blows this myth out of the water isn't some complex scientific theory, it's just simple math. When you actually look at the percentage of ships and planes lost in the Bermuda Triangle and you compare it to any other busy part of the ocean, there's no difference. None. It's a high-traffic area, so of course you're going to have incidents, but proportionally, it's no more dangerous than anywhere else. Statistically, it's kind of boring. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is the official conclusion from both the U.S. Coast Guard and Lloyd's of London, the biggest maritime insurance market in the world. They've crunched the numbers and they all say the same thing. There's nothing special going on here. And this brings us to what might be the ultimate proof. Follow the money. If there was a real mysterious danger out there, you can bet insurance companies would charge you extra to go through it. So what's the extra premium for sailing through the Bermuda Triangle? Zero. A big, fat zero. They don't believe in the risk because the data says it doesn't exist. So if all the famous cases are easily explained, the science theories are debunked, and the statistics just don't add up, why are we still so obsessed with this story? Well, the answer is pretty simple. We just love a good mystery. Pop culture, like movies, really cemented the idea of aliens and weird vortexes in our heads. And let's be honest, a story about a paranormal portal is way more exciting than a story about bad engineering or a pilot making a mistake. It also tells you something that these mysteries have pretty much stopped happening. With modern GPS, the kind of navigational blunders that led to tragedies like Flight 19 are almost impossible now. In the end, the Bermuda Triangle isn't a real place on a map. It's a place in our imagination. It was built from a few real tragedies, blown up by sensationalism, and kept alive because, well, we all love a good story. It really makes you wonder, though, what other famous mysteries are out there that are just misunderstood stories waiting for a simple explanation?